World Business Forum 2009. Innovazione, creatività e talento. The Manifest of New Management talks about the redefinition of leadership. What does this mean?
You know, I think in the old days, in kind of hierarchical organizations, we assumed the leader was the smartest person in the organization and also had the most information. You know, you go back historically in hierarchies, we consolidated information and the people at the top literally knew a lot more about things than people down at the front lines. I don't think this is true anymore, as it's now very easy to distribute information widely. Every single employee can have kind of this holographic sense of the whole organization, where we're making money, what do customers need, and so on. And as that happens, power has to move from the top of the pyramid down to the front lines. You cannot have a highly adaptable company in our world today if a few people at the top still have kind of a majority of the share of voice around strategy and direction and so on. That has to be distributed downwards in the organization. So I think in that sense, leaders going forward, leaders are going to be concerned less with making the big decisions and kind of personally responsible for the vision, and much more creating the kind of organization where people can bring their best to work every day. And let me give you kind of two extreme examples. So on one hand, we have kind of the image from the 1990s of Jack Welch as this very strong chief executive and chairman at GE, you know, brilliant leader, very powerful personality. And on the other hand, you have somebody like Linus Torvalds, the Finn, who kind of helped bring this community together around Linux and open source. And I think the model for the future is probably some blend of both of those things, but it's much more, I'd say, kind of orienting or moving towards kind of the Linus Torvalds model, where how do I create the right kind of incentives and climate that energize people, get them contributing, giving me their best talents, much less of the command and control kind of top down. So that's how I think leadership is changing, from the kind of model of the general to somebody who's more a servant leader. And executives who start redefining their own roles in that way are going to have an advantage going forward.
What elements mostly contribute to encourage talent?
The first thing is the selection of talent, and this means going beyond what is obvious in a person's resume, curriculum vitae, and trying to find out what makes the person tick like a clock. What is their inspiration? What is their motivation? And then what is their capacity? So the first thing is finding the talent. The second thing is putting the individual into a nurturing environment where creativity is an expectation, not a bonus. We expect people in our environment to be generous. We expect them to be creative. We expect them to take risks. This is something that is clear from the very beginning of the process. And the third thing is, and this is somewhat unique to Cirque, but not entirely unique, we expect them to be a team player. In other words, you're not on stage alone at night. Even if you're a solo artist, there is a technician looking after you, there's a musician playing your music. So it's the generosity that an artist can give not only to the public, but with the other members of the team that they're working with.
How do creative ideas originate in the Cirque du Soleil?
First of all, Cirque du Soleil draws its inspiration up until now from everything that's happening on planet Earth. And now that Guy has been out in space, I imagine everything that's also happening in the space around the Earth. So we're very open-minded. Because of that, we're also a culturally rich company. Each person brings in his or her own specific talent. It might be acrobatics, but will also bring a small part of their cultural heritage to the table. So it's not unusual to find a great Russian or Ukrainian acrobat who can also do Russian dancing really well. So the idea is not just to find the talent, but find what is behind that talent. What is the cultural wealth that exists in that individual? So we're really looking beyond what is obvious to what we have to scratch and find.
Incoraggiare i talenti e la creatività per avere successo, una formula vincente per qualsiasi azienda?
Beh, assolutamente, soprattutto nei momenti di crisi le aziende riescono a dare il proprio meglio soltanto se hanno al loro interno dei talenti. Il problema di questi talenti è da un lato trovarli, poi coltivarli e poi soprattutto riuscire a tenerseli, e questa è la grande sfida, no, per le nostre aziende in questo inizio di secolo un po' turbolento.
La parola d'ordine di questa prima giornata di lavori è innovare. L'innovazione fa parte del vostro processo di crescita aziendale, e perché?
L'innovazione è fondamentale per il nostro processo di crescita e più che di crescita e basta anche di sopravvivenza, perché il mercato digitale è un mercato altamente non solo innovativo, ma si deve ricreare ogni giorno con appunto la crescita del mercato. Destiniamo allo sviluppo, alla ricerca e quindi all'innovazione oltre il 25% del nostro fatturato annuo, ed è un investimento fatto non solo in macchine o in tecnologia, ma soprattutto in formazione delle persone. Solo con questo tipo di investimento è possibile non solo garantire la sopravvivenza, ma riuscire a competere in un mercato che sta diventando veramente sempre più globale e concentrato.
Come incoraggiare e sviluppare il processo creativo all'interno di un'azienda?
Ma allora, le aziende, per come sono strutturate mediamente oggi, non aiutano, non alimentano, non sostengono uno sviluppo creativo che in qualche modo sia, insomma, disruptivo realmente, che porti al cambiamento. Tuttavia vedo che spesso in aree magari inaspettate, insospettate, partono poi i progetti migliori, no? Per cui oggi credo che sia il top management a dover ripensare alle logiche quelle della struttura tradizionale, e avvicinarsi un po' di più alle logiche del web, quindi prendere un pochino dal web e cercare di capire che cosa significa oggi andare a chiedere i pareri dal punto di vista proprio che provengono dal crowdsourcing, no? Quindi tutti ti aiutano a decidere, perché oggi ci sono anche sistemi tecnologici che ti supportano in questo, per cui bisogna essere un po' più digital, proprio digital minded, più che digital in senso tecnico.